Just when Meghan Markle thought she could breathe easy, thinking her half-sister Samantha's legal battles were contained to their sibling drama, everything just got turned upside down. Sources close to the situation are revealing that Samantha Markle isn't just coming for Meghan anymore, she's setting her sights on Prince Harry too. And this isn't some desperate last-ditch effort. This is calculated, strategic, and potentially devastating. For the first time since this legal saga began, Samantha is directly targeting the Duke of Sussex himself as a defendant in what's being described as an expanded defamation lawsuit. Think about what that means. Up until now, Harry has been somewhat insulated from the direct legal fire, positioned more as Meghan's supportive husband rather than an active participant in the alleged defamation. But Samantha's legal team has apparently been building a case that Harry wasn't just standing by his wife, he was actively participating in what they're calling a coordinated campaign to destroy Samantha's reputation. The timing of this expansion is absolutely crucial. Legal experts are whispering that going after both Sussexes simultaneously could be a masterstroke that changes everything about this case. When you're suing just one person, you're limited in how you can frame the narrative. But when you're suing a couple who've built their post-royal brand on joint interviews and shared storytelling, suddenly you can argue conspiracy, coordination, and amplified damage. Word on the street is that Samantha's attorneys have been meticulously combing through every joint appearance, every shared interview, every moment where Harry nodded along or added his voice to statements about the Markle family dynamics. They're not just looking at what Meghan said about her half-sister, they're building a case that Harry's participation gave those statements extra weight, extra credibility, and therefore extra potential for harm. This expansion also sends a chilling message to Harry personally. He spent years trying to protect his wife from what he sees as unfair attacks, but now he's discovering that his protective instincts might have legal consequences. Every time he backed up Meghan's version of events, every time he provided corroborating details, every time he used his royal credibility to support her narrative about family dysfunction, he was potentially creating legal liability for himself. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Palace insiders are reportedly watching this development with a mixture of concern and fascination. Harry's direct involvement as a defendant could drag more royal details into the legal proceedings. When you're suing a prince, even an estranged one, the scope of discovery and the potential for embarrassing revelations expands dramatically. The legal community is buzzing about the strategic implications too. By naming both defendants, Samantha's team can argue that the alleged defamation wasn't just one person's perspective. It was a coordinated effort by two people with massive global platforms to shape public opinion against her. That's a much more powerful argument than claiming one person was just sharing their personal family experience. And then there's the financial angle that nobody's talking about openly but everyone's thinking about. When you're going after two defendants instead of one, particularly two defendants with separate income streams and assets, you're potentially looking at a much larger pool of resources to draw from if you win. Harry's inheritance, his book deals, his speaking engagements, all of that could theoretically be on the table now. But that was just the beginning of how this legal expansion could change everything. The ammunition Samantha's legal team is reportedly building their case on isn't just random comments or offhand remarks. They're zeroing in on specific, high-profile moments that reached millions of people worldwide, and the details they're focusing on are absolutely damning for the Sussexes. According to sources close to the legal proceedings, the evidence trail starts with that explosive Oprah interview from 2021, but it doesn't end there. In that bombshell Oprah sit-down, Meghan painted a picture of her family that Samantha's attorneys are now calling demonstrably false and malicious. When Meghan told Oprah that she barely knew her half-sister, describing Samantha as essentially a stranger who changed her last name back to Markle only when Meghan started dating Harry, Samantha's legal team claims that was a calculated lie designed to diminish her legitimacy as family. But here's the kicker. Harry was sitting right there nodding along, occasionally adding his own commentary that supported Meghan's narrative. Legal experts are pointing out that Harry's physical presence and verbal agreement during these statements could be legally significant. When your husband, who happens to be a prince, is sitting next to you validating your claims, those claims carry more weight with the public. Samantha's attorneys are reportedly arguing that Harry's participation transformed what might have been dismissed as typical family drama into something that seemed more credible and therefore more damaging. But the Oprah interview was just the foundation. The Netflix documentary series Harry and Meghan is where Samantha's legal team believes they found their smoking gun. Over 6 episodes, the couple repeatedly referenced Meghan's family dynamics, with both Meghan and Harry contributing to a narrative that Samantha's attorneys claim systematically portrayed her as a fame-seeking opportunist who exploited her connection to Meghan for personal gain. Industry insiders are revealing that Samantha's legal team has been analyzing every frame, every comment, every implication from that Netflix series. They're reportedly arguing that the documentary wasn't just Meghan sharing her personal perspective, it was a joint production by both Sussexes that used Harry's credibility and royal background to legitimize claims about Samantha that were supposedly false. The legal filing is expected to detail how these media appearances collectively painted Samantha as what sources describe as a liar, a stranger, and a fame seeker. But it's not just about individual statements. Samantha's attorneys are reportedly building a case that there was a pattern, a consistent narrative across multiple platforms and interviews that systematically demolished her reputation. What makes this particularly explosive is that both Meghan and Harry had massive platforms when they made these statements. The Oprah interview was watched by over 17 million people in the United States alone, with global viewership reaching into the hundreds of millions. The Netflix documentary was one of the platform's most watched series. When you have that kind of reach, legal experts say the potential for reputational damage multiplies exponentially. Sources close to the case are suggesting that Samantha's legal team isn't just focusing on what was said, but on what was implied. When Meghan described growing up essentially as an only child, when she suggested that Samantha barely existed in her life until Harry came along, when both she and Harry framed the Markle family dysfunction in ways that positioned Samantha as the primary antagonist, all of that is reportedly being cataloged as evidence of a coordinated defamation campaign. The international scope of these statements is another factor that could work in Samantha's favor legally. These weren't comments made in passing to a local news station. These were carefully planned, globally distributed media appearances that reached audiences across continents. When you're talking about defamation on that scale, the potential damages multiply accordingly. But the evidence trail goes even deeper than just the major interviews and documentaries. Here's where Samantha's legal strategy gets absolutely ruthless. Her attorneys aren't just arguing that Harry was a passive bystander who happened to be in the room when Meghan made allegedly defamatory statements. They're building a case that Prince Harry actively participated in what they're calling a coordinated amplification campaign that made the damage to Samantha's reputation exponentially worse. The amplification argument is legally brilliant and potentially devastating for Harry. When you're married to someone and you appear together in interviews, there's an assumption that you're both endorsing the narrative being presented. But Samantha's legal team is reportedly going further, claiming that Harry didn't just endorse Meghan's statements, he actively repeated and amplified them with his own commentary and corroboration. Legal experts are buzzing about how this strategy could change everything. When Harry added his own observations about the Markle family dynamics, when he provided context that supported Meghan's characterizations, when he used phrases like "we saw" or "we experienced" instead of "Meghan saw" or "Meghan experienced," he was allegedly transforming one person's perspective into what appeared to be collaborative testimony from two credible sources. The amplification becomes even more legally significant when you consider Harry's unique position. He's not just any husband backing up his wife. He's a prince, someone with international credibility and gravitas. When Prince Harry validates a narrative, it carries weight that goes far beyond typical spousal support. Samantha's attorneys are reportedly arguing that Harry's royal status made his amplification particularly damaging because audiences were more likely to believe statements that came with royal endorsement. Sources close to the legal proceedings reveal that Samantha's team has been analyzing every instance where Harry added his voice to discussions about her. They're looking at moments where he didn't just nod along but actively contributed details, observations, or emotional context that reinforce negative portrayals of Samantha. Each of those moments is reportedly being cataloged as evidence of active participation rather than passive support. The legal implications of the amplification argument are staggering. If Samantha can successfully argue that Harry wasn't just supporting his wife, but was actively participating in spreading allegedly false information about her, then he becomes equally liable for any damages. It transforms the case from Meghan said something false and Harry was there, to Meghan and Harry together constructed and promoted a false narrative. Industry insiders are whispering that this amplification strategy could be the key to Samantha's entire case. Joint liability means joint responsibility for damages. It also means that during legal proceedings, both Sussexes could be compelled to provide testimony, documents, and evidence about their decision-making processes regarding how they discuss the Markle family publicly. But perhaps most significantly, the amplification argument creates a legal precedent that could terrify other celebrity couples. If you can be held liable not just for your own statements, but for actively supporting and amplifying your spouse's allegedly defamatory comments, it changes the entire landscape of how public figures discuss family drama and personal conflicts. And this amplification strategy is just setting the stage for the real bombshell. The human cost of what Samantha claims the Sussexes put her through is absolutely heartbreaking, and her legal team is reportedly preparing to lay out a devastating portrait of how their global platform transformed her life into a living nightmare. This isn't just about hurt feelings or family drama anymore. According to sources close to the case, Samantha is documenting severe reputational harm that allegedly destroyed her career prospects, personal relationships, and basic sense of safety. The harassment Samantha claims to have endured is reportedly off the charts. After the Oprah interview and Netflix documentary painted her as a fame-seeking liar, sources say she was bombarded with death threats. vicious social media attacks, and harassment that invaded every aspect of her daily life. When millions of people believe you're a manipulative opportunist because two globally beloved figures told them so, the backlash can be absolutely brutal. Legal experts are pointing out that the global reach of Meghan and Harry's statements amplified the damage exponentially. This wasn't localized gossip or regional family drama. When the Sussexes characterized Samantha negatively to international audiences, they allegedly triggered a worldwide campaign of hatred and harassment against her. The documented threats, the online abuse, the invasion of privacy, all of it is reportedly being cataloged as evidence of the real-world consequences of their statements. The professional damage Samantha claims to have suffered is equally devastating. Sources suggest her ability to earn income, maintain professional relationships, and pursue career opportunities was severely compromised when she became globally known as the allegedly lying, fame-seeking half-sister who exploited her connection to Meghan. In today's connected world, that kind of reputation follows you everywhere. Industry insiders are revealing that Samantha's legal team has been meticulously documenting every threat, every harassment incident, every professional opportunity that allegedly disappeared because of how the Sussexes portrayed her. They're building a comprehensive picture of a woman whose life was systematically destroyed by what they claim were false and malicious statements amplified by two people with unprecedented global reach. The psychological toll is another factor that could play heavily in court proceedings. When you're suddenly the target of international hatred because two beloved public figures characterized you as dishonest and opportunistic, the mental health implications can be severe. Legal experts suggest that documented psychological harm could significantly increase any potential damages awarded. But perhaps most importantly, Samantha's legal team is reportedly arguing that the damage continues every day. These interviews and documentaries live forever on the internet, continuing to shape public perception and trigger new waves of harassment and professional consequences. The financial implications of this damage assessment could be absolutely staggering for the Sussexes. Samantha's decision to target both Meghan and Harry together isn't just legal experimentation. It's reportedly a calculated masterstroke that could fundamentally change the entire trajectory of this case. Legal experts are whispering that this strategic shift transforms what was previously a family squabble into something that looks much more like a coordinated defamation conspiracy, and the implications are absolutely explosive. When you're suing two defendants jointly, you're not just doubling your chances of success, you're creating an entirely different legal framework. Samantha's attorneys can now argue that this wasn't one person sharing their personal perspective about family dynamics. Instead, they can frame it as two individuals with massive global platforms working together to construct and promote a false narrative that systematically destroyed her reputation. The joint defendant strategy is legally brilliant because it allows Samantha's team to argue coordination and conspiracy. Every time Meghan and Harry appeared together and discussed the Markle family, every time they corroborated each other's accounts, every time they presented a unified narrative about Samantha's alleged behavior and motivations, all of that can now be presented as evidence of a deliberate campaign rather than spontaneous family commentary. Industry insiders are revealing that this approach could force both Sussexes to provide separate testimony and documentation about their decision-making processes. When you're dealing with joint defendants, each one can potentially be compelled to reveal conversations, planning sessions, and strategic discussions they had about how to publicly address family issues. The potential for embarrassing revelations multiplies dramatically. The financial implications of the joint strategy are equally significant. Instead of going after one defendant's assets, Samantha's legal team can potentially target the combined wealth and income streams of both Sussexes. Harry's inheritance, book deals, and speaking fees, combined with Meghan's entertainment industry earnings and brand partnerships, represents a much larger pool of potential damages. Legal experts are also pointing out that joint defendants often face additional challenges in mounting a unified defense. Meghan and Harry would need to ensure their legal strategies are perfectly coordinated, their testimonies are completely consistent, and their documentation tells the same story. Any discrepancies between their accounts could be exploited as evidence of deception or coordination. The precedent this case could set is terrifying for other celebrity couples. If Samantha succeeds in holding both defendants equally liable for jointly promoting allegedly false narratives, it could fundamentally change how public figures discuss personal conflicts and family drama in interviews and documentaries. But the real shock comes when you look at exactly how much money could be at stake. The financial stakes in this legal battle are reportedly astronomical, and when Samantha's legal team starts talking about both compensatory and punitive damages against two of the world's most high-profile defendants, the numbers being whispered behind closed doors are absolutely staggering. Sources close to the case suggest this isn't just about getting compensation for alleged harm. This is about sending a message that could cost the Sussexes tens of millions of dollars. Compensatory damages are designed to make Samantha whole again, to restore what she allegedly lost because of the Sussexes' statements. But calculating those damages when you're dealing with global defamation is incredibly complex. Her legal team is reportedly documenting lost income opportunities, destroyed professional relationships, medical expenses for psychological treatment, security costs due to harassment, and the ongoing reputational repair that could take decades to accomplish. Industry experts are revealing that when defamation involves international celebrities with platforms reaching hundreds of millions of people, compensatory damages can quickly spiral into eight-figure territory. The global reach of the Oprah interview and Netflix documentary means the alleged damage to Samantha's reputation wasn't confined to one market or region, it was worldwide, and the financial calculations reflect that scope. But the punitive damages component is where this case could become truly devastating for Meghan and Harry. Punitive damages aren't about compensation, they're about punishment and deterrence. They're designed to hit defendants so hard financially that they and others think twice before engaging in similar behavior. When you're dealing with defendants worth tens of millions of dollars, punitive damages are calculated to actually hurt their financial well-being significantly. Legal experts are speculating that Samantha's team could be seeking punitive damages that reflect the Sussexes' combined net worth and earning potential. The argument would be that regular damages wouldn't be meaningful to people with their wealth and platform, so the punishment needs to be proportionally severe to actually serve as a deterrent. The joint defendant strategy makes the financial exposure even more dangerous for both Sussexes. They could potentially be held jointly and severally liable, meaning each of them could be responsible for the full amount of any judgment. That legal principle could force both of them to pay the entire damage award if one of them couldn't or wouldn't pay their share. Sources close to the legal proceedings are suggesting that the total exposure for both defendants could reach into the tens of millions when you combine compensatory damages for global reputational harm with punitive damages designed to actually impact their substantial wealth. The palace's reaction to these financial stakes is reportedly one of absolute horror. Palace insiders are reportedly watching this legal escalation with a mixture of horror and grim satisfaction, as Samantha's expanded lawsuit threatens to drag the royal family back into exactly the kind of messy drama they've been desperately trying to escape. Sources close to the situation reveal that senior royals are absolutely furious about how Harry's direct involvement as a defendant could potentially expose more royal secrets and embarrassing details in court proceedings. The timing of this legal bombshell couldn't be worse for the monarchy's carefully orchestrated rehabilitation campaign. Just as King Charles and Prince William have been successfully shifting public attention toward their royal duties and charitable work, this lawsuit threatens to thrust the Sussex drama back into international headlines for months or potentially years to come. What's particularly alarming palace officials is that Harry's status as a defendant means he could be compelled to provide testimony, documents, and evidence that might reveal private royal family conversations and internal dynamics that were never meant to be public. When you're suing a prince, even an estranged one, the scope of legal discovery can potentially reach into areas that make palace lawyers absolutely panic. Industry insiders are whispering that senior royals are privately relieved that Harry and Meghan's decision to step back from royal duties provides some legal insulation for the institution itself. If Harry were still a working royal, this lawsuit could potentially create constitutional complications and unprecedented legal exposure for the monarchy as an institution. But the reputational damage to the royal brand is still significant. Every headline about Harry being sued for defamation, every court filing that details alleged lies and coordination between the Sussexes, every revelation about their media strategy reinforces the narrative that the royal family is dysfunctional and that Harry made the right choice in leaving. Palace sources are reportedly most concerned about how this legal battle could affect reconciliation prospects between Harry and his family. If Harry ends up having to defend allegedly false statements about family dynamics in court, if embarrassing details about private conversations get revealed through legal proceedings, if the case drags on for years generating negative headlines, the chances of healing the rift between Harry and the rest of the royals become virtually non-existent. The strategic implications for the monarchy are equally troubling. This lawsuit reinforces the perception that the Sussexes create chaos and controversy wherever they go, which validates the royal family's decision to let them leave but also highlights how their departure created ongoing problems that continue to damage the institution's reputation. But the ripple effects extend far beyond Buckingham Palace, into the heart of the Sussexes' Hollywood empire. The entertainment industry is reportedly watching this legal drama unfold with absolute fascination and growing concern, as Samantha's expanded lawsuit threatens to demolish the carefully constructed brand empire that Meghan and Harry have been building since leaving royal life. Sources close to major studios and streaming platforms are whispering that ongoing defamation litigation could make the Sussexes virtually untouchable for future high-profile projects. Netflix executives are reportedly having private conversations about how this lawsuit could impact their relationship with the couple whose documentary series was one of their biggest hits. When your star content creators are facing serious defamation charges that question their honesty and credibility, it creates massive complications for future collaborations. Industry insiders suggest that any new Netflix projects involving the Sussexes could be put on indefinite hold until this legal situation resolves. The timing couldn't be worse for Meghan's rumored return to acting, and Harry's expanding media presence. When casting directors and producers are considering someone for major projects, active litigation alleging coordinated deception and malicious falsehoods creates the kind of reputational risk that most studios simply won't accept. Hollywood operates on image and credibility, and both are now under direct legal attack. Brand partnership experts are revealing that major companies are privately reassessing their associations with the Sussexes. When you're dealing with defendants in a high-profile defamation case, the potential for reputational contamination becomes a serious concern. Companies that have paid millions for Sussex endorsements and partnerships are reportedly nervous about how continued association could impact their own brand images. The financial implications for their media empire are staggering. If this lawsuit drags on for years, generating negative headlines and raising questions about their credibility, it could effectively freeze their earning potential in the entertainment industry. Publishers might hesitate to offer book deals, streaming platforms could avoid new projects, and speaking engagement fees might plummet. Industry insiders are also pointing out that the joint defendant status creates unique complications for their brand management. When both halves of a celebrity couple are facing the same serious legal allegations, it becomes much harder to contain the damage or pivot to individual projects. Their brand has been built on their partnership and shared narrative, and that's exactly what's being legally challenged. The international scope of their brand makes the potential damage even more severe. The Sussexes have been building global recognition and credibility, but defamation allegations that get international media coverage could undermine their marketability in key regions worldwide. Perhaps most dangerously for their Hollywood ambitions, this lawsuit could establish a legal precedent that makes other public figures hesitant to work with them. If entertainment industry professionals start viewing the Sussexes as litigation magnets who bring legal complications wherever they go, it could create a chilling effect that lasts far beyond this specific case. But the implications of this legal battle extend far beyond just one celebrity couple's career prospects. The legal precedent that could emerge from Samantha's expanded lawsuit against both Sussexes is sending shockwaves through the entertainment industry and beyond, as celebrities, public relations experts, and legal professionals grapple with what this case could mean for how famous people discuss personal conflicts in the future. If Samantha succeeds in her joint defendant strategy, it could fundamentally reshape the landscape of celebrity storytelling and family drama disclosure. The entertainment world is buzzing with concern about what legal experts are calling the amplification liability precedent. If courts determine that Harry can be held equally responsible for defamation simply by supporting, validating, and adding his voice to Meghan's statements about family members, it creates a terrifying new standard for celebrity couples. Industry insiders are whispering that this could make famous partners think twice before appearing together in interviews where they discuss personal conflicts or family issues. Talk show hosts and documentary producers are reportedly already adjusting their approaches to celebrity interviews. When legal liability can extend to anyone who amplifies or supports allegedly defamatory statements, even passionate agreement during an interview could create lawsuit exposure. The implications for shows like Oprah, podcasters, and documentary filmmakers are staggering. Public relations professionals are frantically reassessing their strategies for managing celebrity family conflicts and personal narratives. The traditional approach of presenting a unified front with your spouse or partner could now carry significant legal risks if those unified statements later face defamation challenges. Celebrity couples might need separate legal representation even for joint media appearances. The precedent could also impact how streaming platforms and publishers approach personal memoir content. When autobiographical projects involve family members or personal conflicts, the potential for defamation litigation was always present. But if supporting partners can now be held equally liable for validating and amplifying those narratives, it adds an entirely new layer of legal complexity to celebrity memoir projects. Legal experts are predicting that this case could spawn a cottage industry of family member lawsuits against celebrities who discuss personal relationships publicly. If Samantha's strategy succeeds, it could encourage other estranged relatives, former friends, and family members to challenge celebrity narratives about personal conflicts through the court system. The international implications are equally significant. With social media and streaming platforms creating global audiences for celebrity content, defamation cases involving public figures now have worldwide reach and potential impact. The legal frameworks that emerge from this case could influence how courts in different countries handle similar situations. Perhaps most importantly, this lawsuit is testing whether there are meaningful legal limits to how celebrities can use their platforms to shape public opinion about personal conflicts. If courts determine that massive platforms create corresponding responsibilities for accuracy and fairness, it could fundamentally change how public figures approach personal storytelling. The ultimate question this case is asking is whether celebrity status and global reach create special obligations for truthfulness and restraint when discussing family members and personal relationships. But all of these broader implications pale in comparison to what could happen next. What happens next in this legal saga could determine not just the financial future of the Sussexes, but the entire trajectory of their post-royal lives, and the stakes have never been higher. Sources close to the legal proceedings are revealing that both sides are preparing for what could become one of the most explosive celebrity defamation trials in recent history, with ramifications that extend far beyond one family's dysfunction. The immediate next steps are reportedly terrifying for Meghan and Harry. Once Samantha's expanded lawsuit is officially filed naming both of them as defendants, they'll have a limited time to respond with their legal defense strategy. Industry insiders are whispering that their legal team is already scrambling to develop a coordinated response that protects both defendants while avoiding any contradictions or inconsistencies that could be exploited in court. The discovery phase of this lawsuit could be absolutely devastating for the Sussexes. Legal experts are predicting that Samantha's attorneys will demand access to private communications, planning documents, and behind-the-scenes materials related to how Meghan and Harry prepared for their major media appearances. Imagine the potential embarrassment if internal emails or text messages reveal strategic discussions about how to frame the Markle family dynamics for maximum public impact. But here's where this case could become truly explosive. If this lawsuit goes to trial, both Meghan and Harry could be compelled to testify under oath about their statements regarding Samantha. They would face cross-examination about their knowledge, their intentions, and their coordination in presenting family narratives to global audiences. The potential for courtroom drama that generates international headlines for months is absolutely staggering. Palace sources are reportedly praying for a settlement that makes this case disappear before it reaches trial. The prospect of Prince Harry being cross-examined under oath about alleged lies and defamation creates constitutional nightmares and reputational disasters that senior royals are desperate to avoid. The financial pressure for settlement could be enormous. Even if the Sussexes ultimately win this case, the legal costs of defending against serious defamation allegations for potentially years could reach into the millions. And if they lose, the combined compensatory and punitive damages could financially cripple their media empire and personal wealth. Industry experts are predicting that this case could drag on for years, generating negative headlines and raising credibility questions that effectively freeze the Sussexes' earning potential throughout the legal proceedings. The entertainment industry abhors uncertainty, and ongoing litigation alleging coordinated deception creates exactly the kind of reputational risk that makes celebrities untouchable for major projects. The ultimate irony is that Samantha's legal strategy could succeed in doing what years of royal family pressure, media criticism, and public controversy couldn't accomplish. It could effectively silence the Sussexes' ability to control their narrative and profit from their personal story. But perhaps most significantly, this legal curveball represents the most dangerous challenge Meghan and Harry have faced since leaving royal life, because it attacks the very foundation of their post-royal brand, their credibility as truth-tellers, who courageously spoke out against institutional dysfunction. If Samantha succeeds in proving they coordinated to spread false information about family members, it doesn't just cost them money, it potentially destroys the entire narrative that's made them global celebrities and media darlings. The next few months could determine whether the Sussexes emerge from this legal battle stronger than ever, or whether Samantha Markle's legal curveball becomes the beginning of the end for their Hollywood dreams and media empire. What do you think will happen when this case finally reaches the courtroom? Will the Sussexes' legal team find a way to dismiss these expanded allegations, or could this be the legal reckoning that changes everything? Drop your thoughts below, like and subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.